We are going to discuss the Appendix 1 questions. If God, why evil is the title of that chapter. And did I give you this as homework?
No, this one is homework.
No. So then write down your answers as we discuss this. The answers to these questions are, at least in part, going to help you in your writing. And as we read Tim Keller and as we listen to a sermon by Dr. Ekman, I want you taking notes because by the time we're done with everything and you go to write that paper, you're going to be like, oh, I don't even remember anything. So I want you to, and you're supposed to use each of the three sources in your writing. So taking notes is the best way to remember that. So do that. And then taking notes, in this case, just looks like answering the questions. So, emboldened question. This objection has been, so if God, why evil? This objection has certainly caused a lot of people to doubt God's existence because they can't seem to understand how God and evil can coexist. Thus, as a Christian, why is this a formidable question? And why must Christians answer it? So, first of all, what makes this question a formidable one? Why is it so difficult, and why does it trip up so many people? Yes, Cheyenne?
Because we preach that God is there. Good is what He is. Why does He allow evil?
Okay, and that is the question, but what makes that hard to answer? Yeah, just they seem contradictory, don't they? Yeah. God's good, but He allows evil. It seems like a contradiction, at least a contradiction in His character. And there's no easy answer. If anyone tells you there's an easy answer to this question, there's not. Why else? Why else is it a difficult question? Well, let's turn to the second one then. Why is it important that we have some sort of answer? Now it'll make a lot more sense.
Yeah, I'm like, this makes no sense.
Well, I mean, a lot of people have said that about this whole question. So,
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
yeah. So why should we try to find an answer to this? Let's say because we have to write it. Yeah.
Because everyone's going to wrestle with the question, and you're not going to be able to come to peace with yourself.
Yeah, and if you're just going to go with a simple "God said it, I believe it, that settles it" kind of answer, that's not going to satisfy you at some point. And it's certainly not going to satisfy people that you meet that are atheists or agnostics who will use this very question to try to get you to think, at least, if not trying to trip you up. And this is among, I think, 2 or 3 of the most sticky moral questions within Christendom, within Christian doctrine. And so I think it's important that we be able to answer it properly. And not just gloss over it, be able to to explain it. To the best, look, you're never going to have this ironclad answer to this, um, but, uh, but you have to at least get one that makes sense to you and satisfies you, or at least get that much. So now let's turn to page 108 for the equipped questions. How does the atheist complaint against God regarding evil presuppose that God exists? And I know this was like 6 weeks ago that we actually read this. You're supposed to read the rest of it for your homework. Yeah.
How do you know what evil is unless you know what good is, and how do you know what good is unless there's an objective standard beyond yourself?
Exactly. Yeah. You don't know what evil is unless you understand good. It's like that whole crooked line thing. You only know that a line is crooked because you know what straight means, right? You know what a straight line is. And then um, and then the presence of good presumes the moral law. If there is something that is bad, then there's something that is good, and if there's something that is good, that it must be defined somehow. There must be an objective standard for good. If there was no objective standard for a straight line, then you have a whole lot of crooked wallpaper, right? And you need to understand that there's something that is a straight line before you can understand crooked. And if there's a moral law, then that, as we talked about a number of chapters ago, that presumes a moral lawgiver. It's also a clue for God. When does the Bible say evil began? Yeah. Yeah, in the fall of man in the garden. Now, one of the things the atheist said is, why doesn't God just remove all evil right now? Why doesn't he? What would happen? Yeah. Well, I suppose it would interfere with free will. Yeah, I can see that. But our evil would have to be judged. Like right then. If he gets rid of it, then it has to be judged right then. Because evil cannot go unpunished. And we don't want evil to go. We want our evil to go unpunished. But we certainly don't want that guy that, cut us off in traffic or whatever it is, or caused that accident, that car accident that totaled your car. Oh, now I'm flashing back. I can't talk about that anymore. Brand new car. And Hitler isn't the only evil person. We tend to default to people like Hitler when we talk about evil. But we are evil too. We do evil too. And so it doesn't, the amount of evil isn't the point. The fact of evil is the point. So why did God allow evil to begin with? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and having free will is the only way that there could be love. And God is love. If you do away with free will, then you do away with love. We'd be basically robots. And I love what C.S. Lewis says, and I know I've told you this before, but he talks about how forced love isn't love, and that God can't force us into loving because his very character doesn't allow it. And he says he can't ravish. He and only woo. And that's why there's evil, why he allows it. Why hasn't God defeated evil yet? Yes. Yes. Believe it or not, God does not live by our timetable or rule by our timetable. Someone? Are we going to pay attention up here? Thank you. Yeah, God acts on his own timetable, not ours. We serve him, he doesn't serve us. The book talked about heaven like a winning locker room. What was the kind of analogy there? Well, yeah. Yeah, who celebrates the most? Yeah. Yeah, I remember 1994, 1995, when the Huskers won the national championship, and a bunch of people congregated down at 72nd and Dodge, and all these people, jumping and shouting, and it was great. It was really great. The second one, my nephew was in the emergency room, but but um, but the people that actually took part in it, the people who actually played, who coached in that, it was even greater, right? Because they took part in it. As I was looking through this, it reminded me of this picture. This is my sophomore yearbook, and this is a picture of basketball players and students. I'm over here on the side, and this is my sister hugging me. We won the Benelux tournament. Now, the Benelux tournament, I wouldn't compare it to to a state championship because there was no such thing. There was no European championship, but it was the highest thing that we could attain. This was the biggest tournament that we could. It was all of our people in Benelux means Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and then there were some in Germany as well, some schools in Germany as well, and we won that tournament. Now, I think this win was sweeter for me in my old Chuck whatever they are, Chuck Taylor, yeah, high tops, than it was to my sister. But if you see this, hang on, I gotta find her. You see this young woman here. Her name was Jackie LaBerge. She was the best player in Europe. So obviously she was our captain. She was our high scorer, all of that, and the students are lifting her up on their shoulders. And she ended up going to being one of the first women to go to the Air Force Academy, by the way. Wonderful. So I think it's probably sweetest for her, right? Or for our coach, Gail Sossaman, it would have been even sweeter. And that is true, that those who follow more closely with God, who are more invested in their faith, I think will savor that even more. It's all good. There's nothing bad. Everybody's happy. But yeah, those who are closest to the action receive the most from the win. How can good come from evil? Anybody had a situation that was a bad thing, but good came from it? Maybe you have something like that? Go ahead.
No, I just.
Okay, say what the book says.
After the 9/11 attack, people came together and were comforting each other, crack down on the whole terrorist issue.
I remember my mom going to New York with her best friend not too long after 9/11, and there was there was a museum there that was a museum, maybe it's still there, to, oh, no, it wasn't. Hang on, I'm telling the story wrong. And they visited the, the Ground Zero. And there was a Japanese news team there, and they stopped my mother to interview her. And they said, "How do you feel coming out of this?" My mother said, "I feel exactly the same way I felt when I was in Japan at the Hiroshima Museum or Memorial." And I thought that was a very beautiful and astute comment. But good things can come from difficulty, from trial. Listen, I think the lessons we learn the best are the ones that come from hardship, the ones that come from difficulty. And certainly suffering accelerates our spiritual. And if we hang on to Jesus, it does. And any number of people I could talk about. Corey, anybody heard of Corey ten Boom? Maybe read The Hiding Place. Corey ten Boom's family harbored Jews during the World War, and they got caught, and they were all sent to concentration camps, and nearly all of Corey's family died, including her sister. They were in Bergen-Belsen together, and shortly after her sister died, she was released on a technicality, on a clerical error, from prison, from the concentration camp. And if you ever want to read her story, it's amazing. The Hiding Place is what it's called. And I remember watching the video, and I had no idea what was coming, the sort of adaptation. And at the end, and this is like in the 70s, she comes on the screen. And I remember, like, after seeing this very emotional movie, I started to cry. I was like, "It's Corey!" And she said, "I promised my sister that if I survived, that I would tell everybody that there is no pit that is so deep that God is not deeper still." And then in her beautiful Dutch accent, she said, "And so, I am telling you." Here's a woman who literally went through hell. And she said, there is no pit so deep that God is not deeper still. And God was able to use her in ways that he otherwise could not use her. Not in spite of that trial, but because of it. It doesn't make it good. It doesn't make it even okay. It doesn't make it easy. But it is true. Is it true that God allows bad things to happen to good people? Yeah. Yes. I would say no. There are no good people. There are no good people. Now, God allows even bad things to happen to bad people. That's true. Because we're all dirty, rotten sinners deserving hell. So there are no good people. But the second thing is that God is omnipotent. And so we have to say that he has power over every situation. But then the last part of this is this. Don't confuse God allowing something bad to happen to you with you allowing something bad to happen to you. If you're going to drink and drive, or if you're going to drive like a maniac and get in a wreck and then blame God, it's not his fault. That was your fault, not God's fault. If you're going to smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day for 30 years and you get lung cancer, that's not God's fault. That's your fault. Oftentimes we are the cause of our own problems, and we tend to blame God. Number 9. What are the 5 options God had in creation, and explain why this world was created in the best possible way? What's the first choice he had? Don't create at all. What's the second one?
Create a non-free world.
Create a non-free world, yep, where we could not sin. So we'd be robots. So not only could we not sin, we couldn't love either. There wouldn't be bad, but there also wouldn't be good. We'd just be like their dog Elroy, the Jetsons. You know, they can't be real. What's the 4th one? Yeah. But then what does that do away with? Free will and hence love. Yeah. If we're forced to accept Christ, that's not real. And then what's the 5th? Yeah, where we sin, but not all are saved. And this is God is completely just and He is completely loving, and this is the only way that He can be both of those things. Is to create the world that He created, where we have choice to either accept Him or not. Now, page 110, the engage. Taking into account what you learned in this dialogue between the Christian and the atheist, how would you respond to the question, if there really is an all-good, all-powerful God, then why does He allow evil? So what I want you to do there, and you're not going to do it right now, we're going to move forward. But what I want you to do there is maybe write down 1 or 2 things about the appendix that you want to include in your paper. And you can just write just a brief thing that brings the rest of it to mind, but just a couple of things that you would want to include in your paper. And now, if you would, please maybe send a volunteer from your row to get Tim Keller books, and we're going to open them up to chapter 2.